Hi, welcome to the gun room. With me is the Podcateers. They're all firmly back in the old gun room. How are you, Jay? How are you, Mitch?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Good, good. We've got lots to discuss. We're still on a roll. Everyone's fairly happy. Well, most of us are fairly happy. Second to last game at home at the Emirates against a struggling Leeds. It had plenty of talking points. We get to those. There's the Luke Ayling sending off at 27th minute. But before that, let's get to the formation. 4-2-3-1. We've got Ramsdale, Cedric Suarez, Holding, Gabriel, Tomiyasu, El Neni, Xhaka, Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, and Nketiah. The only surprise, I guess, was Tomiyasu flicked out to the left, Jay. How did you feel about that when you saw it?
Yeah, great to see him back, especially with the Spurs game coming up. It was a surprise, but I think he's been ready, hasn't he, for a week or two now. It's just kind of thought, Dan James can be a bit tricky, can't he, for Leeds? And you thought maybe he was brought in to potentially deal with him, but over the moon, because to have him back against Spurs, to fingers crossed he stays fit, and up against Son, it's a big plus point for us, isn't it? So really good to see him back.
Yeah, obviously for the Spurs game, they're going to flick him back, aren't they? They're going to put him on right back because that's where Son and Kane virtually do their stuff. Any surprises for you, Mitch? Anything you didn't like? Anything you thought, oh, hold on a minute?
Yeah, so I mean, Tomiyasu playing left back, I wasn't thrilled about. This is my first time back. I've been gone for a couple weeks, so I haven't talked to you guys about the United or the Chelsea or the West Ham game. But most of this team has been the same from those matches. Mohamed El Neni and Eddie Nketiah, and then Rob Holding as well, who played great against West Ham, have all come in and really, really done a great job. Tavares was, being Tavares, where you have some bright moments, but you have some moments that you can't be too sure about. And I was a little wary when I saw the lineup of I would really rather us play everyone in their preferred positions. I know Tavares is sporadic, but I'd rather have him in than one of Cedric or Tomiyasu playing out of position. I was very happy to be wrong. Tomiyasu did fantastic in that left back role during the match. Very, very good two-footed player. So he was very effective with his left foot, and he looked like he's been playing at left back for ages. So, a lot to like. I think I'd probably keep the same team for Spurs other than Ben White potentially coming back in if he's healthy. The question with that has to be, do you bring him in for Cedric or do you bring him in for Holding? Because if we're playing against Spurs, maybe we want to sit deeper. Maybe we want a bit of play in a lower block, so they aren't able to spring that counterattack, because that's when Spurs have been at their most effective, when they're able to not have the ball as much, play on those counters with Kane and Son, and just be devastating with that. And a team that sits deeper, if we had a block of Tomiyasu, Gabriel, Holding, and White, that's a pretty formidable back four that could transfer into a back three and in possession. That I think could be potentially interesting tactically if we did decide to go with that. So it'll be interesting to see what Arteta goes with on Thursday. But I really liked the lineup on yesterday, and it worked out really, really nicely.
It's kind of got to that stage of the season where his plans and everything else have kind of settled in, haven't they, with the people that he's got available, Jay. It's just landed at the right time. People that we were looking at and thought, well, they shouldn't really be in the side. They've suddenly developed. El Neni, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I can't believe it's the same player. Xhaka on that left-hand side, pushing forward, slightly advanced role. Superb. Holding comes in and it's like he's never been away. It's really incredible how they've done it.
Yeah, you got to give them, each one of them, credit, especially the players that haven't been involved as much as, like Shaka's been there all season, but Mikel's done a great job of keeping them feeling like they're still involved in the squad. El Neni's always had a really, really great, or seemingly has a really great sort of attitude outwardly, very positive. And he's been, I mean, they all have, they've all been superb, but I think you have got to give the manager and the players themselves credit, because you can, they're still tough games, aren't they? We've picked up some, well, maximum points in the last 4 games, and they're all tough games. Every game's tough, and each player has done their own bit, and it's a credit to them, because even Nketiah, he wasn't involved, was he? And he's taken his chance, and the players deserve credit, and so does the manager. And you live in hope that they can just keep going. Get anything other than a defeat on Thursday, and it will be a positive result, won't it? And then that positivity continues into the final couple of games of the season. So long may it continue. They've done superb. Like I say, long may it continue. We're still we're lucky because we haven't had any injuries, have we? Really, we've managed to avoid any injuries to those. To still a very sort of.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the reason we're playing El Neni and like these players is because we've had some injuries, like where we've had Tierney, Partey, and Ben White have all been hurt, and they've all come in brilliantly, like you were saying.
But the thing is, if Partey was he was injury free now, I don't think you get a sniff at the minute, because it's so solid at the minute. I know it was only Leeds, I know they're struggling, but then before that it was West Ham. Before then, it was Man United and Chelsea.
I think it's one of those situations where you're like thrilled that the backup is playing well, where you don't feel a need to rush a player back in. It's like when Tavares played really well when Tierney was injured at the beginning of the season, and then we didn't have a need to like rush Tierney back before he was healthy. I
mean, it's
the opposite of that with like Pablo Mari.
I think if Partey was fit, I would still look to reintegrate him into the side. I know he's done well, but I think Partey's a completely different midfielder to everybody else that we've got, and we've spoke about it at length, haven't we? The way he can carry the ball and pick out passes, and El Neni's done great, absolutely. But I think him himself would admit, I think he's not on Thomas Partey's level, is he? So I would look to reintegrate if he is fit and he is ready to play. I'd look to reintegrate him back into the side, definitely.
I just want to go back to Tomiyasu. He fascinates me. I mean, so solid. He can play anywhere. We could probably put him up front and he'd get a goal. He's a strange lad, isn't he? His stats for that game, 100% crossing, 100% in the final third, his passes, and no one dribbled past him.
So consistent. Yeah, so consistent.
And out of position as well. It's not everyone can do this. He's an exceptional player from that point of view. Plays on the left, plays on the right, and he can sit in the middle as a centre back. It's a phenomenal gift, honestly. Simon pointed out last week, you talked about Tavares, pointed out that he's not actually a left back. He's more known as a wing back, sort of in an advanced role. I think that could probably explain a few things. Guys, would you, in the summer transfer window, would you top that left-hand side up, and we'll see how Tavares can be employed in some other role? Jay?
Sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
You're right, you go.
So, I mean, we, like in the last week, we're like linked to another Bologna fullback. His name's Hickey, Scottish left back for Bologna. From what I can see, looks like very like kind of similar mold to what we've seen out of Tomiyasu. We're very two-footed and a lot more secure defensively. And I've been someone who's ardently defended Nuno Tavares, and I really want him to succeed because he has a lot of physical qualities that you could see him to succeed. But if we have an available, the fact that Arteta chose to go with Tomiyasu at left back and Cedric at right back shows that I think, especially against Leeds, conveys that he's valuing the defensive stability over the chaos that Tavares can provide offensively. And I think Tavares definitely has his merit and he has his ability, but he's got a lot of room to grow, and especially for a Champions League side. And Kieran Tierney isn't the most dependable left back when it comes to availability. I don't think it'd be the worst idea for us to look to strengthen our depth in the summer. Hickey in particular looks like a really, really solid player that could fit the mold really well, and not only be able to come in to be a backup to Tierney, but to also push him and push him forward. I don't know what it is about Scotland where they're just churning out these left backs. But they got Robertson, they got Tierney, and then this 19-year-old Hickey that are all just like coming through their ranks. At some point, they're going to roll out of the World Cup next year if they qualify with a team full of left backs. But I do think that it would be interesting. I think there's a decent chance we look to maybe strengthen our depth at left back. And I mean, I don't think we should sell Tavares. I think maybe look to send him on loan somewhere, but like a very intentional loan where he's going to be taught well and utilized well as to learn his defensive craft a lot more than he has.
I think the secret is iron brew and haggis. I think that's what's doing the trick. What do you think, Jay? Do you think we're out for a left back in the summer? It's inevitable, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I think you can take it back through the entire season. You know, Arteta's been reluctant to use him, hasn't he, Tavares, because of how much he struggles defensively. And yeah, I agree with Mitch. We shouldn't sell him, but I strongly think we're going to strengthen at left back because we needed somebody maybe a little bit more pragmatic, don't we? Somebody just a bit similar to Tierney, and the lad at Bologna fits the bill perfectly. But there's a player in there with Tavares, isn't there? That we've all seen.
Sure.
We've
Absolutely.
all seen it. I mean, I think he's a bit potentially. I don't know this obviously, but maybe confidence has been an issue this season. He seems like maybe a tad fragile when it comes to confidence. So a loan move, one or two loan moves, so he can get that confidence and that self-belief, and then come back, because I mean he's a big guy, isn't he? He's got it physically. It's just maybe the mental aspect of the game, especially defensively, that he just needs to work on. If we do strengthen, it doesn't mean that it's over for him. He just needs to progress, doesn't he? Like everybody. So yeah, strongly think we're gonna bring somebody in. Yeah, very much so.
Right, if you're listening to this and you want to add something or you want to pick up a point that the chaps have made, it's an arsenalthing4@gmail.com. Keep all your emails coming in. I love milling through those.
Do we have any from John now that we're winning? Because I haven't been. I mean, the last pod I was on was right after the loss to Southampton. So
John's been strangely quiet.
John was rightfully pissed off because we just lost 3 games. But I don't know. We've won 4 games off the bounce against good teams. I don't know. John's probably like withering away. Like doesn't have anything to be negative about.
He's under a bush in my garden, under a big stone, I'm sure. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's like when, do you remember a couple of years ago when Man United were flavour of the day, winning everything, and used to see United shirts out in the supermarkets, in the street and all that. And if they got a loss, that was it. You didn't see anybody. Round where I live as well, that's the Liverpool factor. If Liverpool are doing well, everyone's got a Liverpool shirt on. If they have a defeat, that's it. You know, if they don't win the league this year, we probably won't see a shirt till maybe May next year. Right, let's get on to that game. There's a couple of talking points. Mitch, do you want to take us through the opener? Messala had a howler. How bad was that for a goalkeeper? I thought he was going to burst into flames and then cry himself out.
I mean, I get it. Like I was a goalkeeper when I played, so like that mental aspect of like you have to have like the memory of a goldfish when you're a goalkeeper or a defender. Like you just have to move on quickly. And I feel like Messier did that. I feel like he had a decent, like he by no means a great performance after that initial mistake, but like I feel like I mean, we didn't score more than 2 in a game that we could have scored 6. And I feel like Messier didn't have the worst performance of his career, but he had one of the worst mistakes you can have as a goalkeeper, where you just take too long on the ball and it just gets out away from you. But I mean, huge credit to Eddie there, who has just been fantastic on his his pressing, because I feel like we've given Lacazette some good credit, and even Aubameyang for pressing higher up the pitch throughout our entire season. However, we haven't seen either of them do the impact that Eddie has done in just his 4 games. Eddie has contributed 2 goals exclusively from his high pressing, and maybe another if I'm blanking. But the first one against Chelsea and then the first one against Leeds directly came from Eddie pressing really high and doing it very, very effectively. And he's just got that instinct. That's one of those things that makes me believe that Eddie can become a top striker. Is he's always had that instinct, that goal instinct. Where I was looking at his shot charts for the last couple of years this morning, and they're all of his goals are littered within the 6-yard box. And it's that's the instinct to find those balls and score. We saw it in the Carabao Cup this season, where he gets in those positions where he can do that little back heel flick, really, really good in the 6-yard box. But something we've seen in the last 4 games is he's shooting from different angles. He's adding a lot of really huge elements to his game that we've seen throughout this season. We saw him in preseason. I think if Eddie didn't get hurt in preseason, the top 4 race would have been wrapped up already. If he got a chance early on,
Eddie, sir,
because he was really, really looking good in preseason. We were seeing a little more of this movement that we've seen from him so far in these last couple of games since he's come into the side, and adding these dimensions to his game that have made him more of a complete striker rather than just the fox in the box. If he doesn't get hurt in preseason, and then Lacazette and Aubameyang get COVID against Brentford, and Nketiah starts, Nketiah might have gotten a lot more game time this season. And we could have seen a lot bigger of a sample size from him. Obviously, I'm speaking just very hypothetically, but these last 4 games, he's been phenomenal. He's scored in 2 of them, but he's been one of the best players on the pitch in all 4 of them. No, 5. It's against Southampton. He was fantastic. To where I wanted him to start again against Chelsea, and he did, and then repaid me writing an article about him by scoring 2 goals. So he's adding a lot of these layers. I would love to see him sign a contract, honestly. I think he's got a lot of those physical tools that you don't see a lot of times in strikers, with that kind of instinct. And then he's adding all these different layers to his game. He's a very, very exciting striker project for a 22-year-old. Wherever he's at next season, he's going to be really, really good. I will hang my hat on that, at least.
I think the thing is if it's the Europa League or the Champions League, the issue is a 22-year-old striker going up to that level. I'm not saying he can't do it, because I've had my problems with him in the past, as you know, Jay. I'm not saying he can't do it, but it's a lot of pressure on the kid. Surely in the summer we're going to get one at least if he does stay, and he's just going to have to take his pick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to sign a striker no matter what. There's not a thing that happens from here to the end of the season where we don't sign a striker. The question is if we sign 2. If Eddie was to sign a new deal, I think we maybe look in a different direction. I've been thinking, I had this idea that I think the Gabriel Jesus deal was it looks very secure. It makes a lot of sense to have him as the second kind of option where he can play a variety of positions, and we'll have a lot more matches, can play striker, can play on the wing. If Eddie stays, I don't know if I really necessarily want us to sign a Gabriel Jesus anymore. I would rather us go for a premier number 9, and then someone who can play more out and out as a wing depth. Not I still want us to sign I wouldn't want Gabriel Jesus to be our premier striker signing, period. I would want him to be a secondary one if we did sign two. Like I would love of like a Victor Osimhen or a Tammy Abraham. Those would be like my top two that we've been like linked to. But I think what can happen with Eddie will be interesting from now to the end of the season with his contract, because I think he's a really, really talented player. I don't think he should be our main striker next season by any means, but I think if he stays, he will get game time. So, but like at the very least, if you're him, it makes a lot of sense for him to want to go somewhere else. Like, Tammy Abraham is a great example where like if he had stayed with Chelsea, he probably would have gotten game time this year. But if he goes to Roma, he's all of a sudden the main man. And then now he's being looked at by other Premier League clubs as this big money signing. So if you're Eddie Nketiah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense for Arsenal to want to extend him, but it also makes a lot of sense for Eddie to want to leave.
Jay, have you noticed the difference in these 4 or 5 games that we've been talking about? Him personally, I noticed he looked a bit more confident, a little bit more on the ball, a bit more sure of himself. What have you noticed about Nketiah?
I mean, you look at his second goal against Leeds. That's a difficult finish. He's leaning back and he's flicked it, and he knows where he is in the box. His awareness is great. Finishes it beautifully. And want to add to what Mitch said, we have seen a lot more to his game in the last few weeks, but that's all confidence based. As soon as you start scoring, you start trying these new things, and when things go your way, like you could argue both his goals against Chelsea were down to him pressing. He forced the second goal into I can't remember who was playing centre back for Chelsea, but he forced them into mistakes and he popped it in, didn't he? With confidence, it becomes, you start to see a lot more. And don't get me wrong, he's done fantastic. He has, but it's a very small, very few games. He's been practically absent all season. Not his fault. Lacazette's been played ahead of him, and he's certainly maybe showing Mikel that he should have been given a chance earlier in the season. But for me, I mean, I think if we have the chance to sign somebody like Jesus, regardless of what happens with Eddie, we have to go with it. Like that for me, you go on.
I think, to be fair, I might be just being like seeing a striker that has legs, and I'm like, oh my God, he's the greatest player I've ever seen. So, that may play into it, where we've been watching Lacazette and Aubameyang play striker for us all season. And now,
I mean, he's done so well, and it's great to see. The cynic in me, he's playing for a contract somewhere, but he's always had a great attitude. Like you can't. He's been at the club for years. He knows the Arsenal way, but at the end of the day, I think he knows that he's not going to get the amount of game time that he wants and he requires. I'm not sure if he went to. What clubs would come in for him? Because I still think I don't think
Palace. What?
Somebody like teams like that level, I'm not sure he does as well. I think it's only a very few games, and I think the clubs can see that he hasn't consistently done it over the season, and I think he needs to be careful himself as to what clubs he goes to, and he doesn't just fade away into. He's a good player, no doubt about that. He's a predator in the box. His instinct, very similar to Ian Wright. First touch is always good. He's always presses.
Just give him an Ian Wright comparison, and you don't know what to say.
He's not like the main man. He's just making an illustration. Just a little painting.
Even like he's got similar. Jermaine Defoe back in the day, similar. But I hope don't get me wrong. I'd love it if he stayed, and as a second striker, it would be great. But I just think to get to where we want to be. I mean, we're very close to being where we want to be, but to take us up another level, I think we need somebody a lot more seasoned, a lot more proven. But if Mikel manages to get him to sign a new contract, fantastic. I just think if he does sign it, I think Eddie knows himself that he's not going to get the game time, and it's sad because he seems like a nice guy, doesn't he? He certainly doesn't come across like he's disruptive or selfish in any way. And if he did go on leave, which looks like that might be the case, then you can only wish him all the best, can't you? But you have the feeling with him that if he did go to somebody like Palace or like an Everton or somebody like that, that his career, I don't know, it might stall and he might just sort of become one of those strikers that could have been decent and didn't quite make the grade. But
I think that's the main decision, isn't it? You can play for Arsenal and maybe not get as many games, or you can play for Palace and play all the time. And maybe, if you get in just inside the top 10, you've had a great season. I mean, what does he want out of his career? That's going to be the main issue.
If you were to compare, okay, Lukaku scored a couple against Wolves, but if you sat down with somebody who hadn't seen either of those two and said one of these is £100 million player and one isn't, you would say Nketiah is the £100 million player. But we all know there's a player there, and we're all obviously enjoying what he's doing. But I don't know. I'm still not completely convinced.
Let's look at that second goal again. We've spoken about it briefly, but Nketiah, who we're raving about, he was involved in the build-up as well, wasn't it? It was a cheeky little L turn to his left and then feed it out. I don't know who it went to, but then he made his kind of run. He decided he was just going to canter up to the box, and then it reached Martinelli, who did all the donkey work.
How good was.
And then that's what I was saying, where he's becoming more of a complete player, where he was dropping deep, which is what Lacazette's really good at, and then he's able to have the pace to get back into the box, because it's what we haven't seen from Lacazette.
I'll tell you what, did you see that bit where two Chelsea guys were trying to mark him? They stood in front of him and he just mugged them off and he just moved aside. That was absolutely brilliant. Sorry, Jay, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, Martinelli for that goal, he was quite,
game.
He was relentless, wasn't he? And he trying to, obviously we'll get onto the red card, but they were doubling up on him. They were trying to get sort of physically, weren't they, trying to maybe get to him that way, and he just brushed them off. And he's so strong, and isn't he now? And he's another one, super confident. And he was in that build up to the goal. He was fantastic. Great.
Someone was saying on social media he should get more goals, but you don't mess with a player like that. The goals will come. He's just reaching that level before he had that injury. That's what I think, anyway.
He should have scored. He was unlucky to not have a goal against Leeds, because he had a great game and gotten some really good positions, and then just the final ball wasn't there, which we can say for everyone bar Eddie and Nketiah for the match.
Right, we move on to the 27th minute. Luke Ayling, once in the Arsenal Academy, I believe, did a 2-footer. What did you make of that?
Well, if Martinelli's, I know everybody said it, but if his foot is planted and Ayling catches his ankle, he broke his leg in half. He's got an Aaron Ramsey. Luckily Martinelli saw him coming at the last minute and managed to jump up. The bizarre thing for me is why the referee only gave Ayling a yellow card. Like before he went over to VAR, what did he see? It was the most blatant 2-footed challenge.
I think my thought process, at least when I saw the yellow, was that the ref was like, this will go to VAR, but I can't give a yellow if it's not a red card challenge from VAR. Where if I give the yellow now, because I know at the very least it's that, but I wasn't close enough to see, it's going to go to VAR. I'll be able to check and get a closer look, rather than right off the bat give a red, and then it's not a red card challenge. It goes back and I can't even give a yellow because of it, because you can't give yellows for on VAR looks. So I think it may have been a proactive thing, or maybe he was fully thinking it was a yellow card. Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. It was a red card.
All of the Leeds supporters, they're super impressed. They like that, whatever. And then you look at the Arsenal supporters and they hate it. And I think when there's a reaction like that from the crowd, and the tackle, it occurred right on the byline, I think the referee can look at things like that, and it was never a yellow. Unless, like Mitch said, unless he didn't have a good enough view. I just think when you see a reaction from the supporters like that, I think that he knew, didn't he? And ultimately, it didn't take him long, because as soon as you saw one one replay. It was horrendous, wasn't it? And even Ayling knew, didn't he? When he walked off, you could see it in his face. He was like,
there was one shot, he had his head bowed a little bit and he was looking at his boots, sort of thinking, I know what's coming.
I don't know.
He was talking to Granit Xhaka, and I was like, I wonder what Xhaka's saying to him.
And I'm sure he's going around to Gabriel. Gabriel was like, what the F? And he was like, oh, I'm sure you could see him lip like basically saying, I'm sorry. He didn't. I think he just lost his head, didn't he? It was just he was getting mugged off all through the game by Martinelli, and he just wanted to just smash him in half. But you just can't do that, can you?
It was interesting. It all started. There was a bit of a hubbub, wasn't there? Rafinha, I thought he was going to get sent off.
I thought they were about to go to 9 men because Rafinha was losing his mind.
Yeah.
Like he got the yellow for the and then he kept yelling, and I'm like, give him another yell, please do it.
Yeah.
I've got to tell you, my position, if I was a referee, and you know all that crap that used to get back in the sort of 90s, noughties, early noughties, you get all these players following you up and down the pitch. I'd have none of that. I'd be going back off or you're going to get a card. And I would have done the lot. You know, Man United were notorious and Liverpool have been down the years, haven't they? For ganging up on the ref, trying to get in his ear. I'd have none of that. Rafinha, I think he should have gone.
Really pushed his luck.
God, yeah. His own players were pushing him back, saying, what are you doing? And when Xhaka's sort of trying to reason with someone, you know it's wrong, don't you? Well, our record for not conceding corners, that's gone. It was a mess, that goal, wasn't it? Who wants to talk us through it? Diego Llorente, wasn't it? 66th minute.
Go on, Mitch. I'll let you do it.
We were caught cold.
Yeah. Really, really unlucky that that was our only opportunity for the entirety of the match. And it comes at that time. It was our first corner, their first attempt on goal. They had 2 touches in our penalty box for the first bit of the match. It was the flick on the header and then the shot. And it was like, really? It's just like how the game works, you know?
It's like they kind of forgot the basics of how to defend and keep someone further back, because they all went to like the post where the corner was coming in, so they all disappeared, and he just had a free go, didn't he? He had a free pop.
Yeah,
it was quite embarrassing actually. But oh well, let's move on a bit. So despite dominating Leeds, we didn't quite get the cricket score that we wanted, and that seemed to offend a lot of people on social media. And a lot of people were belly aching about the performance. As I said to Mitch just before we came on, there was a guy saying we played for 10 minutes and for the rest, we weren't very good. I mean, it's about... And we also said just before we came on, let's backtrack a bit, is that if someone had said after 3 defeats on the bounce that you're going to finish this season in contention for the top 4 slot and the Champions League or the Europa League bare minimum, you would have ripped their arm out of their socket. So I don't really understand what some people are watching, because what I saw was a team, okay, they Arsene Wenger once said that sometimes it's harder to beat 10 men than it is 11. And I think that was the case. But we got the 3 points, we got the 2 goals. We're into the North London derby, 4 points clear. And if we win this, we're in there. What's the problem?
You can before the Leeds goal, you rewind back, and Saka had a great chance, didn't he? When the ball went out to the, he's disappointed, shot it straight at Meslier, and obviously there was the Pepe chance at the end. Oh my God, Pepe! Yeah, we made it. We did the Arsenal thing. We made it difficult for ourselves, didn't we? We were cruising, weren't we, before they equalised, and it's all about. At the end of the day, I said this on after the game, it's all about results. The performances don't matter at the moment. Get the wins. If we can come out of the Spurs game with anything other than a defeat, like I said earlier, then that's a good result. It's all about just doing what you need to do. However you get there, it doesn't matter.
If we beat Spurs, we clinch top 4. We can clinch it on Thursday.
Right. Let's just... Interesting point you brought up there, Mitch. Pepe, for the time he was on the pitch, he was fairly anonymous. And then he got that ball just near the halfway line where he was home and dry, wasn't he? And he had Dan James to beat. And if he had gone to his left, he would have been clear, but he seemed to go to his right slightly.
I don't know.
He was, yeah, he was looking to go on his right, and he cut back onto his left, didn't he? And he just got tackled. Oh God.
He has a negative football IQ. I am like just very excited of moving on from him in the summer. I liked the sub. Like I like that we're up 2-0. They're down to 10 men. We're gonna win this game. Let's sub off Saka. Let's give him some much deserved rest. Great. Let's bring on Pepe. But like he just has no ability to like hold the game off. Like when we brought him on, when we were trailing against Wolves, he was really, really effective. He was really good because we had a lot of the ball. We were constantly going forward. We were trying to retain a victory in a 2-1, and you just need to keep the ball. He has an inability to do that. He did the same thing against Aston Villa. He almost lost us the match because he has an inability to hold the ball, and he just doesn't know what to do with it in certain game states. I'm so excited that we're going to move on from him and cut our losses because he's just frustrating to watch.
It was when you look back on that, all he had to do was just take a touch to steady it, and then he's got the power and he's got the touch to actually just boot that into the net with the goalkeeper behind him still. It was one of those ouch moments, and as you say, it underlines the whole Pepe saga. He just hasn't fitted in. He can't find his feet. He runs off without the ball. When he gets the ball, his feet seem confused. There's a little bit of wiring that's missing, connecting the feet to the brain. Jay, how annoying was that moment for you?
Oh, Mitch, he's nailed it. He has got a very low football IQ. He did the one thing in that moment that I don't think anybody on that pitch would have done, was be to cut back inside, back into trouble, back into where the players were. I mean, it gets the more times you watch it, you're struggling to understand what he's doing. It's clear his Arsenal career has been over for all season, hasn't it? If in a season where we've improved, the club's improved, so many aspects of the club and the team have improved, he's just not been part of it, has he? And he's just like, it's a shame because I do. There's a player in there, he's got ability, but I just don't think he's like Mitch said, his football IQ is at the level that Mikel wants his team to be at. You look at, the other end of the spectrum would be like a Tommy Asu, who can just come in and he's instantly on it. Instantly, the stats that you brought up, Tom, very rarely puts a foot wrong, and like Pepe's at the other end of the spectrum, isn't he? And it's going to be, I think we just have to take what we can for him. End of the season, if that's Bukayo Saka who picks up the ball, he's going past, isn't he? He's driving forward, takes a touch and scores into an open net. But Pepe's just not Saka, as we've seen.
Just came to me as well. That game was quite interesting. From a lot of the movement went down the left through Martinelli and less down the right. There was movement down the right, and it's normally all down the right, isn't it? With a bit on the left, but it was all Martinelli was on fire, and that brings me to your man of the match. I could have. There were so many good performances there, although some people won't agree with me. I had 3 people in contention. Jay, who was your man of the match?
Eddie scored twice, so I think I've got to give it to him. Martinelli, especially in the first half, he was relentless. He was superb. But I think you've got to give it to the man who scored the winning goals, scored both the goals. So yeah, for me, Eddie got it. El Neni was good again. Don't get me wrong, his passing was superb. But yeah, Eddie for me.
Mitch?
I think Tomiyasu was fantastic. I think Martinelli was fantastic. I think Xhaka was great. I think Odegaard was playing really well and combining well. El Neni was amazing, but it's Eddie Nketiah. I mean, to score the 2 goals, that's huge. So it's got to be him for me.
I appreciated what Nketiah did, obviously, and those goals were outstanding. And it just goes to show, if you don't give up on a ball, if you keep chasing and pressing like he did, like an animal, wasn't he? He was straight in there. And the thing about that first goal was he didn't even put in a burst of pace, did he, to get there first off? He thought he was just going to clear it. And then he suddenly saw again that he was a little bit slow. There was some hesitation there, trying to get on his preferred foot. And that's when he raced in. But Nketiah, great performance. But for me, it was just nice to see Martinelli back. Tomiyasu was great as well. But for me, getting Martinelli back at this sort of level, going into the North London derby and these remaining games, can't wait to see what else he's got to offer. But he is lucky to have 2 ankles after that disgusting tackle. Right, chaps, Arteta's signed a new contract.
Yep.
That had a kind of dodgy vibe on social media. Some were pleased and some said about rewarding failure. I don't quite understand what that was about. Your thoughts, Mitch?
I think those people are dumb. If you've watched Arsenal all season and you don't see the positive development and the clear direction that we're headed, then I don't know what you're watching. I feel like I've said that multiple times on this pod, but like if you aren't able to look past your own agenda and your own bias that you've created, and see what Arteta has been doing his entire reign as Arsenal manager, then I don't know what you're watching. Like, yeah, he's made some bad decisions. He's absolutely stumbled. He played Willian in a false 9 last season. Like, that was not smart. He's made some stupid errors in his time as Arsenal manager. But
you had to mention him, didn't you? You had to mention Willian, the old wet lettuce in a sock. I can't. And he's not doing very well at the moment, is he?
Just a thought of Willian playing a false 9 gives me PTSD. But he's come a long way. Like, it's his first manager job. There's a very, very clear project and direction and process that's happening. And from everything that's you hear, like, the players love him. Just very respected by everyone at the club. And I'm the fact that he said that he was offered the contract right after the Southampton loss. Like, that's the amount of faith the club has in him, where, yeah, you just lost 3 straight. Here's a new contract. That's not rewarding failure. That's a faith in a man that you know is going to bring Arsenal forward. And when we beat Spurs on Thursday, everyone will shut up, hopefully. No,
well,
I mean,
let's just include in that period of failure an FA Cup and a community dish.
Exactly.
Which is not a cup, but, you know.
At the very least, the FA Cup bought him time to where we were able to have very bad runs of form, and it was able to build enough goodwill, like that run in November of 2020, like November, December. And that was really key early on for him to be able to have that goodwill that got him this time. And this isn't a 7-year extension that's making him the highest paid manager of the league. This is a 3-year extension that's like, we trust you, but you still got to earn it. This isn't like, and I think that's perfect. I think that's great. Like, show faith in the project and the direction that you're going, but by no means don't like put all your chips in. I have a lot of faith in Arteta. I think that we will be going places with Arteta, and I think the board and the Cronkies agree with that statement.
What do you think, Jay? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I was delighted.
Yeah, I saw that. Saw it on Twitter.
It wasn't a surprise. Mitch just summed it up great. The only thing I want to add is, you know, for years, especially the last few years of Wenger and obviously Emery and even, you know, Freddie in the early part of Arteta, I wanted the club to get rid of the deadwood, and Mikel's done that. I wanted for a long time, and Tom, you know this, I didn't like a lot of the players. I didn't like a lot of the aspects of the club. I felt like more than ever, you know, that I didn't really feel part of it. Well, Mikel has re-energized me from that point of view, and I think he's done that to a lot of the fan base. And he's also got us potentially well, we're already back into Europe. So I know I've said this to you both before. For me, the season's already been a success because we've progressed. If we can get into the Champions League, if still no, we're not there yet, as we know. But if we can get into there, he's got us back to where Arsene got us, where we were under Wenger. So he's done, for me personally, he's done everything. And like Mitch said, it hasn't been plain sailing. There have been rough periods, and I've doubted him myself. But he seems to have learned from the mistakes, and it was not a surprise to see. Because I think somebody, there was a few people questioning the timing of the announcement, like why was it made then? Well, it was made then, I think, because you've got the mess going on at Chelsea. The uncertainty there. Is it coincidence that the team are massively underperforming? It might have something to do with how uncertain things are at the club. I think to just announce it and the show of faith by the owners, it's only a good thing. And you only have to look at, Mitch, you've been to matches this season. I've been to matches this season, home and away. Anybody that goes to the games, there is very little negativity inside the ground. It wasn't that long ago.
Arteta,
and it wasn't that long ago that I would take my son to the games, and I was having to shield his ears sometimes, for what the abuse Arsene would get, or certain players like Giroud, or other players that were Mesut, and there is none of that now, and that's down to Mikel, and it's down to the positivity that he's injected into the training, the everything from interacting with Louis Dunford, just everything. He's done so well, and he deserves the contract. And like Mitch said, anybody that's against it is just feeding their own awful agenda now, because just there's no place for it, is there? There's no place for it amongst the fan base now. We moved on from that divide. We're very much united more than ever. And I was delighted. I'm having a long-winded answer, but yeah, I'm so glad that he signed the deal, because he's a top coach. He's only going to get better.
You see, I've got a different theory about the timing. You've got players coming up for renewal of contract extensions. Obviously, as a player, you wonder if Arteta's going to be there. Maybe you want to base your decision on who's in charge. So if you remember a few years back when Wenger was running out of contract, and there was that big dithering period over whether he was going to sign a contract, and our form just went through the floor. Everyone was out of contract. He wasn't going to be there. Nobody knew whether he was going to sign. He was making light of it, but our form really went out the window. Now, go on.
With that, there was something I watched a Thierry Henry documentary, I think on YouTube or something, and if I remember him, kind of that uncertainty is why he left the club, because he wasn't going to play at Arsenal if it wasn't for Wenger, and so having that security and having the I think Arteta said something where he was like, yeah, I've had players asking me am I signing a new contract, and it's I don't know, a lot of uncertainty. I mean, I sure hope Bukayo Saka is one of those players where a lot, it was now that Arteta's signed a deal, if you're Bukayo Saka, you're okay, I'm feeling a little bit more secure. I mean, especially if we qualify for the Champions League, I'm feeling very confident that Saka signs a new deal. Yeah. I'm confident even if we don't, but if we make the Champions League, I'm very, very, very confident that Saka signs a new deal this summer. But it's in our hands. It's very exciting.
I'll tell you what, I replied to this guy on Facebook when he said about rewarding failure. And I said, the framework is finally in place. The club is on a unified path and direction. And as much as I crave success, this was a 3 to 5 year project. Getting rid of the dross and those that wanted to keep earning for nothing. The ideology is now about the club, and the road ahead is not about the individual. Some games have been brilliant, others have been poor. But for what we had and where we are now, he deserves the contract.
But for those people that are doubting him, if you to get an honest answer out of those people, what do they consider to be success? Where do they realistically expect us to be? Okay, we're not destroying teams, and we are, we beat Leeds, and it was a bit hairy, like a bit worrying at the end, or whatever. Each game's a struggle and all of that. We're not dominating like we used to, but we're getting it done, and it's just what I'd be genuinely interested in if anybody's got a decent sort of comeback. Where do they seriously expect us to be? What do they expect from the manager? That actually genuinely where they, because surely we're ahead of everybody's expectations now, sitting in 4 points clear. And like Mitch said, it's a big if, but if we can get a result at the Spurs Stadium, we're in the Champions League. Like, God, that's way ahead of where anybody. Absolutely. When we kicked off against Brentford, that kick-off, when we had Reece Nelson playing, when we had, nobody would have expected us to be where we are. And I'd just be so interested to put your agenda to one side. If you genuinely are doubting Mikel still, what would make you not doubt him? Winning the league? It's obviously not going to happen. Doing the double FA Cup, it's not going to happen. It's just baffling. It really is that there are people out there still not behind him.
Well, I did send him an invite. I did say, look, we're recording on Monday. Please come on, give us your point of view. And he kind of said, well, I'm a bit busy. I've got work and stuff. And it was like, yeah, okay, you're one of those ones. Right, let's do the transfer rumours in 6 words or less. Aaron Hickey, you mentioned him. Are we in or are we out? I fancy, it's a good acquisition for me.
Let's do it. I need to watch more, but let's do it.
Yeah, Jay? Why not? Yeah, why not? Absolutely, go for it.
19 years old too, like very.
He can play all across the back line as well, Carney. I think he can play center.
Yeah, very two-footed. So he's played a bit at right back a little bit as well. Where if you have that versatility from both fullbacks with him and Tomiyasu that are like just unbelievably two-footed, it just I think he could be a perfect player to when we have when we fully shifted to this 4-3-3, having the 8s be higher and the fullbacks being a little more reserved, having 2 players that can invert and use both feet really, really effectively. Massive. Yeah. Massive.
Right, the next one up, Daily Express is saying that Arsenal are going to make another move for Raheem Sterling. Do we really need Sterling if we're going for Jesus? I think
it's one or the other.
Yeah.
I think like I was saying earlier, if we were to extend Eddie and we don't need a second striker in the summer, we go for someone like Raheem Sterling, where it's a winger that can play both wings, and bring some serious quality and provide a lot of cover as well. I don't know if he'd be my first choice for that role exactly. I think I'd look for someone that that doesn't really eclipse what we're building on with Martinelli, Smith Rowe, and Saka as wingers. I don't think a lot of Arsenal fans would love Serge Gnabry. Former Arsenal player. I'm a huge fan of his. But he's a player that you bring in and you're starting him. So do you bench Martinelli? Do you bench Saka? You're not going to do that for a signing. So
that's the thing, isn't it? You've got to balance this squad now. When you go into the summer, you've got to find people who are going to complement it without disrupting it or turning it over. That's Absolutely. What you've got to do.
Yep.
So my 6 words or less was no thanks.
I think if you've got a chance to sign somebody like Sterling, you go and do it. I think if we're at a point now, potentially, and this is all, best case scenario, we're in the Champions League. Arteta's in a much more advanced position as a coach, a young coach who's had to build a squad that has now achieved more than it probably should have. And we're in the Champions League. Now he's looking at players that can keep us in the Champions League. And I think players like Sterling will do that. Players like Jesus will do that. The chances of Pep selling both of them to us in the same window, absolutely zero. No chance.
One of them maybe.
Yeah. And if by all accounts, City have signed Haaland, so where does Jesus fit in? You know, he doesn't, does he? So, but Sterling for me would be a great addition. I think he's a quality player and he scores goals. But there's Pep. No, Pep's he knows better than that, doesn't he? He's not going to sell us two in the same window. So,
okay, Jay, you got the offer of the pair of them. Which one are you going to pick?
Jesus. I think we need him more than we do Sterling.
Mitch?
Depends on Nketiah.
That's a fudge of an answer, isn't it? Right, let's press on to the emails. Oh no, there's one more transfer bit to go through. 6 words or less. £34 million we would have to pay for Napoli's midfielder Fabian Ruiz. Anyone seen him, heard him, fancy him?
Looks like a solid player. Plays in that 8 role. I think he seems a little bit more of that well-rounded profile, but I haven't watched him enough to really confidently say that. His contract's out in not this summer, but next summer, so we could hypothetically get him for a pretty cheap, lower price, but seems like a really solid player. So we'll have to see. We've been linked to him before. We'll have to see what those links, if they pop up again in the summer.
What about you, Jay? Have you seen him?
I haven't seen much of him. No,
I've seen little bits.
Yeah, I've seen a few links to Tielemans. You know, for me, if you're going to spend 34 million, I think Tielemans' contract's up, isn't it?
No, so it's the same thing as next summer.
Yeah. So for me, somebody that's played in the league and has done well, I would favour somebody like Tielemans. But to be honest, I'm not an expert on the player. But
Tielemans is his off the ball work rate worries me a little bit, but I think that's the main concern with Tielemans. But like on the ball, the technical quality that he brings is really good stuff.
Right, let's go to the emails then. Get ready to rumble. John Gillespie, this is an interesting one. He's given us a choice of 2 players. You can only have one, like we just discussed. Jay, open this up because it's got your main man. You can either have Nicholas Anelka or you can have Ian Wright. Which one are you going to go for?
Yeah, it's going to be Wright. If you'd have said Thierry Henry or Ian Wright, that's a different one. That's difficult. But yeah, Righty every day of the week. Anelka was good, but attitude was terrible. So Righty, come on, man. It's Ian Wright. Got it.
Mitch?
Well, I mean, I remember being at the stands of Highbury watching both of them in, like, you know, I saw them so many games, so many great performances from both in person. I was alive, obviously. Everyone knows this. I grew up in London. It's very clear. All of this, everyone knows this. This is, you know, it's an Arsenal Thing podcast. Everyone knows this information about me. I'm very clear. Grew up in London. I watched at Highbury. We all know this. So obviously Ian Wright.
Yeah, you pick him just on personality, wouldn't you, really? And
I mean, to be fair, I know way more about Righty because of like how he is with the club and stuff like that. But like, I mean, I've seen Ian Wright clips, and he's just an incredible player. And you know, Anelka, I don't think had the lasting impact that someone like Wright or Thierry Henry did as strikers at the club.
I think the thing is, Anelka could have been a legend. He could have been. He had the talent. He had the pace. He had the eye for goal. He was an exceptional player. But as Jay said, his attitude, it stank. It stank the place out. And to be honest, as much as I liked him, as much as I thought he was a skillful player, when he actually packed his suitcase and went, I was quite relieved. It's club, not player.
The money we got for him, what was it? We signed him for, what was it, $500,000 and sold him for 23 million, and he paid for the training ground. And, you know, and also we ended up signing Thierry from Juventus, didn't we, to replace him? So, you know, some things are just meant to be, aren't they?
No. Susan says, it's me again. Do you think Vieira will ever manage Arsenal? What are your objections to that, if any? Hiya, Susan.
I mean, I think if you're Arteta out and you want to bring in Vieira, then like that just seems odd to me. Like, credit to Vieira, he's been fantastic this season. Palace have looked really good. I think like their underlying statistics have been way better than like their actual performance. So, I mean, that's due for if they have another good window, they could have another really good season next year. Could be, maybe fighting for like top half conference league kind of positions. But if your one of your hangups with Arteta is that he's unproven, that there's not a lot of managers in the Premier League that are more unproven than Patrick Vieira. So I think that I don't see Vieira being someone that manages I mean, Allah would have to go down at a certain point where we move on from Arteta, and then Vieira being Vieira and Arteta's like tracks. They're both going forward right now. Arteta would have to like take a huge dip for that to be the case. So, I mean, we'll see. I can, never say never, but as of right now, doesn't look likely.
It's a bit of an odd conversation to have, isn't it, really? Seeing as we're on, the timing of this
Absolutely.
is weird, not the timing of the contract extension. Jay, what are you doing? You've got your own personal sort of gig going on here. Stan has sent in an email asking you, Jay, just ignore the rest of us. We don't matter. Asking you, Jay, where Saliba fits into the back four, back three. Who would you dispense with if he comes back? Not that you have to dispense with anyone, really, but Is this you sending me emails to get you involved? Are you sure?
The reason it's not me. The reason it's not me is because I don't care about Saliba. He's a good player, but I mean, I think out of the centre back, if he's going to play centre back, and we're only going to play two centre backs, probably Gabriel. But to be honest, I personally don't see him coming back. I think it's sad. I don't know. It's tough because you don't want to see him achieve at other clubs, do you? There's a player there. He's obviously talented, and you don't want him to be snapped up by anyone else and go on to be the player that he could be for us. I just, I hope he can come back, and he would be a big addition if his attitude's going to be right, and if he's going to be like the rest of the squad, going to buy into what Mikel wants. I hope he comes back. If he is going to play, I would say that he's probably going to play instead of Gabriel. But even then, Gabriel and Ben White have established a good partnership, haven't they? So it's going to be tough. He's going to have to work hard to get into the team. He's not just going to walk into the side.
I know this question's for Jay, but I kind of want to add a little bit too. I mean, really, really talented player. Depth is very good, especially with being in the Champions League next season, or potentially. Sorry, I don't want to get ahead of myself. But I think that having Saliba come back and having him be the third center back would be massive, where he can play the cup matches, come in for a Premier League match with injury or whatever. Depth is very important. It's very important.
Would he be happy with that though? That's the thing. Will his ego allow him to be that third centre back?
Like he can't expect to be starting every match for Arsenal.
That's what worries me.
That is what worries me a bit too. That he has been starting every match for Marseille, so he could go somewhere else and start every match, and that's not a guarantee at Arsenal. And if that's the case, then I guess we have to let him walk. But I don't want that to happen because he's so talented. And he very easily could win a starting position. Like he very easily could win a starting position. I don't think it's like a locked in thing that Ben White and Gabriel are our two center backs, but also he's not going to walk in and just be handed one of their spots. So I don't know. It's all about his mentality. If he wants to fight for a position and stuff like that, but there's absolutely a spot for him next season with the amount of matches we're playing.
Right, lads, we got to wrap it up there. What's your prediction for the North London derby? Let's just have that, Jay.
I think it's gonna be a draw. I think it's gonna be a score draw, maybe 1-1. That's what I'm gonna go for. 1-1.
Mitch.
2-0 to the Arsenal Saka winner with a penalty.
Come on.
Very precise. so tough. I'm drawn between a 2-2 draw, because there is goals in that game, or a really grubby, awkward, difficult ground out 1-0. And I think I'm going to go for the 1-0. We'll do 1-0. We'll do it in their backyard, and we'll send them out with a nosebleed again. That would do me nicely.
Be awesome. That would be ideal.
Chaps, it's been an absolute pleasure once again to have the old podcast family back. I'm giving you a sort of virtual hug here. We'll see you for the big one, okay? And look after yourselves. Stacey, are you there?
I am.
Yeah, she is. You look after. I saw a little finger there. Right, take care, chaps. Look after yourselves.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
See you later.